Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Oak Island Research Channel for a new video today. After the videos with the Rochefoucauld GRAIL and the images, I'd like to analyze with you one of those pictures that really talks to me and to us with the theory of the vault. So this video is called the bird and the fancy. The bird because we're gonna discover where the bird was hidden on the last video, and the fancy because we are going to revisit Henry Avery's fancy, that pirate, and why it may pop up again strangely in the Rochefoucauld GRAIL. Let's go. So as usual, the fair use on YouTube allows us to use some of the images and text that we don't own for research purposes. And let's start with the last episode, the hidden bird. So I sent you a puzzle, a question, a quiz. Can you find a bird hidden in this picture? And there's a lot of things hidden in this picture. You found things that I can't even see. A lot of people mentioned a bird near the king with the yellow part making the body, and I can barely imagine wings and things like that, but really it was surprising. It really means our brain don't work everybody the same, and we don't see the same things, and we don't approach those figures, geometry, the same way. And if you still can't see where the bird is hidden in this picture, I'm going to reveal it to you now. And again, we will revisit this image because there's a lot of things in this image that I'm working on at the moment. Many things, a story that is told through this picture. Let's go to our bird. So here it is. It's on the bottom right hand side, as I mentioned in the comments of last video. And I hope you can see it now in the top right corner. But if it's not obvious, I highlighted with a pen, and that's the same image without the picture in the background. That was the bird. I saw it, I don't know, after spending probably 2 hours overall, day after day, looking at this image. And as somebody commented in last video's comment, once you see it, it's the only thing you see on the picture, then it just spits in your eyes, and every time you look at the image, that's the first thing you see once you know it's there. I think there's more things hidden. This one to me was obvious once I discovered it, and it's always the same story. If you don't know what you're looking for, it takes longer, but once you found it or found something, then it makes a lot of sense. I don't know what you think. I think it's there on purpose, but I'll be happy to read your comments about it. Again, this picture's got so much more to reveal, I think. Let's move on a little bit to that bird. I tried to identify it because there's a couple of hints, and I thought it was an American pheasant, and I was directed to this hint because it was American, and I was thinking, would they leave a trace of a bird they saw on that Canadian island that wouldn't be known in Europe at the time? But American pheasants, the name is misleading because it's not coming from America. It comes from the Black Sea region, and I can't find why the name became American, but all the descriptions of the American pheasant trace it to the Black Sea, and even further from China. First imported to the Black Sea region and then to Europe. So I'm not sure it's a pheasant, though it was used as some kind of royal symbol. So I don't know. The other thing interesting I found that could match, especially on the big collar and the pattern around the eye, it could be a peacock. I don't know. I was thinking to myself about an hour ago when I was creating this video that, geez, I learned about cabbage like 6 months ago on another video. Now I'm learning everything you want to learn about birds and peacocks, and that's interesting. What's interesting also in the peacock possibility is that it's a term of the Middle Ages, a peacock's wish. I translated this from a French dictionary, and I'm not sure it translates literally to peacock's wish in English. I'm not sure it means anything in English, a peacock's wish. But in French, un vœu de pan, it's a vow by which one undertakes to take up arms or to complete some enterprise, so named because it was done at the table on a roasted peacock that was served, to complete some enterprise. If the legend in the air is the one we think, it's about a huge enterprise that was conducted from Europe to an unknown territory in North America and back. That's some kind of an enterprise. Is that peacock there a testimony of this enterprise? I don't know. But there's a bird there, and if you're good with birds, which I'm not obviously, and you recognize something in there, I'd be happy to hear about it, to read about it, and make some further studies for the symbol it would represent. So that's for the bird that was hidden. And now we're going to investigate the fancy. In former videos, I think it was the hydraulic video where we started to talk about, or I put forward the fancy for several reasons. Because Henry Avery was that pirate who only was in business for 2 years, and he made an incredible coup. He hijacked a Indian royal convoy, and he plundered worth of 93.3 million pounds of nowadays British pounds. That first, the treasure's never been recovered, and second, he never got arrested. And just the story of it, he was called the King of the Pirates, and he inspired a lot of subsequent pirates to start their life. He became a legend. And the story about his ship is he stole the Charles II ship, royal ship, warship, and he renamed it the Fancy. And it's acknowledged that he did some tuning to the Fancy. He removed a lot of weight, he removed a lot of the superstructure, and it was said to be the fastest warship on the seas at the time. And he could beat anybody on the winds. That was known. And that was the Fancy. But the Fancy appears in one of the songs related to him that we're going to highlight now in just a second. Before I talk about the Fancy, I would like us to remember this picture. And from the video called Underneath, we remember the vault theory, right? Which is the pieces of the puzzles from the book of Donroe that, when put together and resketched here, give this mechanism. We remember that. And if not, I really encourage you to go and check video 26, because that's a very interesting one. So we're talking about a mechanism that goes up and down in a vault, and the vault's got that shape, right? That's important for later. That's the way they drew it. It's probably that shape indeed. That goes up and down, and the opening here does match at its resting position when resting on those pillars. Corresponds to what we call the service tunnel, which lets you enter into that thing that here is depicted as a box with right angles, a box. And we understand that when the water goes up, water coming from the ocean into those tunnels with the pressure from the elevation, if this is underground, the water will, with the pressure, will push, and by buoyancy and Archimedes' law, this box caisson will then float, and float by buoyancy like a ship, the same law and same dynamics, and will go up, right, to this position, and the entry point will be offset, not allowing to enter the boat, I was going to say, or the box anymore. So things to understand is this is a floating device. It's not the pressure of water that's involved, it's the floatability of the thing. Let's remember the people who build this, if it's there, are very likely to be sailors and know about buoyancy and know how to make an efficient, buoyant device. Okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing to remember comes from this other video called Hydraulics Consideration. And it was a subscriber from the channel named Ed Hyde, if you're still watching my videos. And he proposed for the volt mechanism his design of what it could be. And he added to the picture, to the concept, some stability design. That is, like a ship, you need some weight at the bottom, some heavy weight there, to keep stability, especially when you're in the floating position on the right-hand side here. Once you're floating, you don't want this to tip over, and you want some stability. And the best way to achieve this is to put some weight underneath the waterline. So that's the best design. And mind you, this is exactly the design of a ship when you sit up front. So I've always kind of believed that the box that was represented rather looked like a ship that would be in that vaulted, how can we call that, pit, and the water underneath here, the water would go up and down by this tunnel system, or be blocked or not by the device at the tip of the hole under the trapdoor. And this would, the best shape would be a boat for stability and maybe a little bit deeper there. So I've always believed we're looking for something that looks like a boat here. So for Captain Henry Avery, that was an old verses composed by him, probably. We don't have proof on this. This is pretty old. And this is the story, the song, where two paragraphs are very interesting to us. Come, all you brave boys whose courage is bold. Will you venture with me? I'll glut you with gold. Make haste unto Corona. Corona is the place where the Charles II was stolen by him. A ship you will find that's called the Fancy with pleasure your mind. Will pleasure your mind. So we know he renamed his ship the Fancy, but a paragraph later it talks about it, but it seems it talks about another Fancy, not the big one that was Charles II. He talks about another Fancy, or he talks rather about the model of the Fancy. So you have the big Fancy, and you have a model of it, a smaller version. She's like wax, or clay, or putty, or something to resist water. She sails like the wind. She is rigged and fitted and curiously trimmed, like would be a small version of the Fancy, or something that floats into that vault under the earth. And God bless his poor Fancy. She's bound for the mine. That's the most intriguing, end of the story, is that, yeah, she's underground now. She's in the mine. So that's from the last videos, and I've always wondered if there was a mechanism, a vault mechanism under the island, and there was a floating device. Would this device be what here Avery talks about? And in the chronological order, it would mean that the Rochefoucauld GRAIL 1315 describes this apparatus. This apparatus is the container of the treasure, if there's a treasure or any relic or anything. But it can be emptied and it can be loaded. And I believe that it was used by the builders and then decommissioned by them. They removed what was in there, but the whole safe mechanism is still there to be used by somebody who knows. And I do believe, that's very personal, it's only me, but I believe Captain King, maybe Avery probably knew this vault existed. It was empty at the time, but they knew it existed, and they were going for it to either deposit their gold or to withdraw some gold or to, I don't know, but I think he knew about it, and he gave it the name Fancy, and he knew it existed, and he was going back for it into the song. But that's just my point of view. Don't kill me for this. Okay, let's carry on our journey with the Fancy. You most probably remember this video and this picture, and I want you to pay attention, please, to the colors now. We know this part here, right, is most probably a description of, sorry, I should go lower, of the vault mechanism. It's very suspicious. It looks very much like this mechanism. And look at the color of the vault, because at the end of the day, this is the vault. Right there, with a right angle, nice. Look at the color. It's green, and it's a particular green. It's a very specific green-blue they use, not exactly the one from the trees, definitely not the one from the horse on the right-hand side. It's a specific green. And one thing about it that I noticed after I shot the video last time, when you look at, yeah, it's a right angle. Consider it's a fish tank. And you have here the water is in green, and the water does this. At the top here, it's yellowish. And you can see it's the same design here. It's on purpose, because it's the same design that goes behind here, on purpose. It's not an error. It's not some color that gets scrapped out. The color, the painting didn't get scrapped out, and you can see that from the shape behind. That's all original color and design. And what would do that? That would be water in a fish tank with an angle. That would keep the horizontal line visible, of course. And I think that's what they meant on purpose by doing this in this area there. They're showing this is liquid and this is water. The water from the vault. Interesting. I think it's on purpose, and it backs up what we were saying earlier. Now, let's have a look at this picture. This picture reveals something, I guess. That's important. First of all, I believe now, after studying all these images, there's a symbolic coding represented. I think everybody understood that the trees were about the islands. When we see trees, it's something happening on the island. When we see one or two trees, and where many trees, I think they're talking about islands in the Bay of Mahon. And that's one of the symbolic. Another symbolic, I believe, is the color and the water tank, which represents the vault. And here we are with that water tank and color that represents the vault. So I think this picture is going to talk again about something with the vault. And when I saw it, I like, wow. Now, that could be, as I am a believer, it is absolutely obvious it is what it is. But of course, it's also subjected to interpretation and what you see and you don't see. Do you see something in there related with the vault? You can pause this video anytime, of course, if you want to play that game. But let's move on. The helm of the knight. Do you see something in the helm of the knight? Does this help? Do we have here at the bottom some water? Let's consider. And that shape is the shape of a boat. An old-styled boat floating on the water. And where is that boat in? That boat is inside a vaulted stone made. I can see stones here. And the stones. I can see the stones behind. Maybe I'm the only one seeing them. and the dome of the vault at the top here, which is of course, the top of the helmet. And I see the fancy floating inside the vault because the water is in, the hump lets the water in, and the hole under the black door, under the trap door, is retaining the water and keeping it inside the vault. So the water is there and the fancy is floating. And that is the knight with his sword up vertically. When the sword is up, there is water in the tank, in the vault, it's filled, and the fancy is floating. And you can, I first saw when I first discovered this, I first saw the shape of the hull of a ship, okay? And I said, well, the ship must be floating or not, according to the vault theory. And then I saw the neck here. That part there really looked like some water underneath. So I was kind of convinced. Interesting, huh? That shape, the way they shaped the helmet with the correspondence of the green color in the tank, kind of tells us it's about the tank and the vault and the apparatus that floats, which I now call the fancy. I think Avery called it the fancy. Under the mine. She's strangely rigged. Another part of the picture at the bottom left corner shows us again the helmet of the other knight. And here, again, you can see the fancy here, but you don't see the water anymore. It looks like she's on the floor. She's not floating anymore, right? She's touching the bottom. And I think that's linked with this part of the picture where the sword now is horizontal. It's like they're describing the position of the hump, where, let's go back to the main picture. If the hump is on the vertical position, water can be in, and if you move the hump to the horizontal position when you're facing it, you're emptying it. It's all symbolic, all right? Again, I wouldn't bet my salary on this, but I do believe it's related. Another hint that there's something in those pictures of the 1315 manuscript ordered from Guy Rochefoucauld VII. And I think, again, that the story of our island is coded in those images. I'll let you judge. I don't think I've got anything else for today. And I'm preparing another video with the help of Mr. Shankly, who's giving me nice pictures. We're going to talk about the signature on those images. And let's remember, we only have 10%. We got basically maybe 10, 11, 13 good enough images to use for our research. And we know there's 107 originally telling that story. Geez. Just the ratio of hints into the 10% we have is already incredible. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I talk to you soon. Bye-bye.